I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas.
The first thing I said to him when it happened was I said, finish them, finish them.
So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as president of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border.
It was clear during the third GOP primary debate that every single candidate was competing for who's the biggest war hawk on that stage, who's the biggest supporter and defender of Israel, regardless of what the Israeli government, along with the IDF, does in the Gaza Strip. But Vivek Ramaswamy did have a little bit of a different answer, and I do want to get into that a little later in this segment. But before we do, here's more of what I was referring to.
As President of the United States, what would you be urging Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do at this moment? Governor DeSantis.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas. They're terrorists. They're massacring innocent people. They would wipe every Jew off the globe if they could. He cannot live with that threat right by his country. That Hamas should release every hostage and they should unconditionally surrender. I'm sick of hearing the media. I'm sick of hearing other people blame Israel just for defending itself.
The first thing I said to him when it happened was I said, finish them. Finish them. And the reason is I worked on this every day when I was at the United Nations. And we have to remember that they have to, one, eliminate Hamas, two, support Israel with whatever they need whenever they need it, and three, make sure we bring our hostages home. The last thing we need to do is to tell Israel what to do. The only thing we should be doing is supporting them and eliminating Hamas. It is not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel. They are the tip of the spear when it comes to this Islamic terrorism, and we need to make sure that we have their backs in that process.
I have a lot to say. Now, look, my view, and I believe Cenk's view as well, is going after Hamas is totally fine. But understand that they're making these statements with the backdrop of what's currently transpiring in the Gaza Strip, where the majority of people dying are not Hamas militants. Overwhelmingly, the vast majority of people getting killed are innocent Palestinian civilians, women, children, elderly people. You have refugee camps being bombed relentlessly. You have hospitals being bombed, and you keep hearing the same talking point over and over again. With, by the way, we just take what Israel says at face value without demanding evidence of what they're saying. But they keep saying, well, Hamas is using innocent Palestinians as human shields. What could we do? Of course, we're gonna bomb the refugee camps anyway. Of course, we're gonna bomb the hospitals anyway. Of course, we're gonna bomb the schools anyway. And I just personally disagree with that tactic. I think when you look at the civilian death toll, it's really hard to justify what the Israeli government is doing. And what I personally have a problem with is Nikki Haley saying, well, it's not up to us to tell Israel what to do. We should support them no matter what they want to do. I do not agree with that. I also don't agree with the notion that we need Israel more than they need us. And this is where you should jump in, Cenk. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, a lot to say about that. First of all, the human shield argument is so bothersome because, so what is the right answer? They're hiding behind human shields. So we killed the human shields?
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
That apparently they're all saying that that's the right answer, which is absurd and inhumane. So the main thing I want to say about these Republicans is I'm glad that they're outing themselves, because 2/3 of the country wants a ceasefire. They don't want this endless bloodshed. They don't want Israelis killed. They don't want Palestinians killed. But these Republicans are saying, no, we're not in that 2/3. We're in the 1/3. And within that third, we're in even more specific and radical extreme, where we say green light on all civilian deaths. There should be no brakes in the car. We should never question Israel, never, no matter what they do. Can you imagine if we said that about any other ally? Even if we said it about Canada or the UK, why? Why would we never question them? What if we vehemently disagree with something they did? How about the second largest army in NATO, Turkey? What, we're never allowed to disagree with Turkey just because they're an ally? What an insane standard.
We would never say that about our own government. I just want you to have that point really sink in.
And that's such a great point, Anna, because think about it. They're all out there criticizing the current US government led by Joe Biden, right? So they're like, yeah, damn it, the American government sucks, right? We gotta make America great again, because America right now is terrible. America's awful. Israel, never question Israel. Israel cannot be criticized. This is lunacy. This is America first. This is insanity. And Israel doesn't need America. America needs Israel. When's the last time Israel helped you with your gas prices or your wages or your health care? What do we need Israel for? Look, Israel's an ally, I guess. And so I'm not like, I want a two-state solution. I want Israel to be a beautiful, great, prosperous, peaceful nation, right? But we desperately need it for what? They just say it. They never explain it because it's nonsense. We don't need them, we don't need Canada, we don't need UK more than they need us. Okay, great. By the way, if Nikki Haley's right and Israel doesn't need us, great, then why are we sending them billions of dollars?
Well,
problem solved, problem solved. No, Nikki Haley just said they don't need us at all. So why the hell would I send a dollar to a country that doesn't need us? Thank you for the admission. Let alone the fact that they're using it now to butcher 10,000 civilians, 4,000 to 5,000 kids. Kids, the more we see them on TV, the more this barbarism of these Republican candidates will not stand. And one more thing for now. They keep saying, finish them, finish them. Other than it being barbaric, like what do you think you're Maximus, right? These are not soldiers you're fighting against. The overwhelming majority of the 10,000 people killed are civilians, and a huge percentage are children. So finish what? All the kids in Palestine and in Gaza? Who do you want to murder as you pretend to be a tough guy cowboy, right? But then the second part of that is, finish them how? When do we know when they're finished? Is Hamas gonna come out and go, oh guys, by the way, we're finished? No, it's an impossible standard. It's meant to be impossible, so you do endless bombings and endless killings.
Well, look, I think they're actually creating more terrorists, okay, more extremists. Because again, if you are not careful in how you conduct this war and you're just, brazenly killing innocent civilians and wiping out nearly every member of every family, well then the remaining family members, we know how this works. This isn't our first rodeo as Americans who are living in a country governed by a federal government that carried out war crimes itself and led to the reproduction of more extremism. Where do you think ISIS came out of? ISIS was the byproduct of our war against Al-Qaeda. That doesn't mean that going after Al-Qaeda wasn't a worthy cause. It's the way we went after Al-Qaeda. It's the way that we slaughtered innocent civilians that helped to radicalize individuals in that part of the world and helped Al-Qaeda and ISIS later recruit people into their cause. I hate that that's a reality, but that was the reality of what happened. And that is currently what is being reproduced as we speak. So it's so counterproductive because not only is it brutal and vicious and deadly for Palestinian civilians, it's also awful in the future for Israeli civilians who should be able to live in peace, who shouldn't be worried about their safety.
Yeah, I want to add one quick thing about ISIS. It's actually it's worse. It's not a byproduct of our war against Al-Qaeda. It's a byproduct of our needless war against Iraq, which we should have never done in the first place.
That's true, yes.
And why did ISIS come out of Iraq? That's because we invaded the wrong country and killed hundreds of thousands of civilians. So look, you can say, when it comes to the word terrorist, I just shut off my mind and I never think about it. I just label them giant billions of people in that category and I never analyze it. But if Iraq had actually invaded us and killed hundreds of thousands of Americans, what do you think Americans would do? What do you think guys in Texas would do? What do you think the guys in the militia would do?
They'd be radicalized. I would probably be radicalized.
You think they might be a little radicalized? You think they might want to fight back against the government that killed hundreds of thousands of their brothers and sisters and their children and their grandmothers? Okay, so that's why that militant groups come out of that oppression. Now it doesn't justify the terrorism, but if you turn off your mind and say, I don't want to know why, I don't care about causes, I just prefer to be dumb and ignorant. Well, okay, that's a choice that Republicans make, the politicians make. They all just said it on the stage, I do Israel, I turn off my mind, I don't want to hear anything. All the Muslims are terrorists, all the Palestinians are terrorists, finish them. And then Ramaswamy, what a slime ball.
Well,
I'm going to smoke the terrorists on our southern, what are you going to do? You're going to invade Mexico?
Hold on.
You're smoking something else, brother.
Okay, hold on. So Ramaswamy, though, had a little bit of a different reaction to what's currently transpiring in Israel and in Gaza. So he was a little sneaky with his answer.
As always.
So with that said, why don't we watch and then I'll explain exactly what I mean. Well, let's take a look.
Mr. Ramaswamy, any daylight between you and the candidates we just heard on this issue on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border, and then I'll tell him as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border. That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars that sent thousands of our sons and daughters, people my age, to die in wars that did not advance anyone's interests, adding $7 trillion to our national debt.
Okay, so let me unpack that for you. This is my read of what his answer was, okay? Listen, Israel should do whatever Israel wants to do. We shouldn't be funding it. We should be focusing on America first, right? That is how he is making or differentiating himself from the other candidates on that debate stage on the issue. Now, of course, he's not gonna come out and say we shouldn't be funding Israel's war in Gaza, but that is essentially what he's saying when he starts off that answer by really homing in on the fact that Israel wants to be independent, Israel doesn't want to be told what to do. I thought that was an interesting answer. Basically, it's this isolationist way of dealing with it, where it's like, let them do whatever they want, but we should be focusing on us.
Yeah, he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. But first, when we're discussing this, why can't any of the Republicans say we're not going to fund Israel's war against innocent Palestinians? That's such a curious thing. Like, they disagree on a million different things, but this is the one thing that no Republican politician is allowed to disagree on, even outsider Vivek Ramaswamy. Why? There's no one ever gives the reason. Okay, I'll tell you what the reason is. It's donors. So you can cry about that if you like, and I don't want any anti-Semitic BS. Jewish donors are a tiny percentage of the overall donors in this country, and the number one problem with donors is corporate donors, not individuals, okay? And there's evangelical donors in this particular issue, and there's also defense contractor donors on this particular issue. So now back to Ramaswamy, he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He criticized Nikki Haley for defense contractors in previous debates. He wants to be an isolationist, America first. Hey, I get credit, I don't want to do any of that, but he still it wants to protect his donor base or whatever, for whatever reason. He comes out and says, no, but Israel gets to do whatever the hell they want. So Israel should kill everyone, but America first. So he's just trying to cover every base there is. Okay, these voters, I'll give you that. Those voters and those donors, I'll give you whatever you want to hear, because I'm a Ramaswamy. And this is what I do. You can't ever pin me down in any position because I'm trying to give everybody everything while pretending that I'm principled.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.